are not spare.
I'm not
The
spare.
room is spare.
The correctamundo. The room is spare. Yeah, so that's my Sunday. Hopefully yours is nicer after this. What are you doing?
I think, well,
Chill.
Paul's cooking, so I'm just
Amazing.
gonna mooch around. I've got a few little, you know how it is at the weekend, little jobs,
Yeah,
to do,
projects,
little
yeah.
bits and pieces. But yeah, mostly just resting after a very exciting
Amazing.
trip to London
So
yesterday.
it should be, yes. And is the F1 still going? Is it still on?
It is. It's on at 2. I have iced spiced buns to
They
enjoy.
sound nice.
I know. Motorway services, baby. You never know what you're going to find. So yeah, that's the plan.
I see. Should we get started? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Hi, Cara.
Hi, Vicky.
How are you?
I am well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm just crying through the hay fever, I noticed.
Oh,
So
no.
that's great for the YouTube. But it's only
Hay fever
today.
and wood chips. You've got it all going on.
Yeah, so I mowed the lawn before the wood chip fiasco, and then
Oh, sure.
yeah, and I think it's just it was like a cloud of pollen has come over me. So I cannot wait for a shower tonight. It's gonna be amazing. Would you like to hear a story, Cara?
I certainly would.
Okay. I've got a little intro. A teenage peasant girl hears voices from the saints, puts on a suit of armor, cuts her hair, and leads an army to save a desperate kingdom. It sounds like the plot of an epic fantasy novel, but this is history. Today, we're diving into the staggering, tragic, and absolutely wild life of Joan of Arc, busting some myths along the way.
Oh,
So
this is one of those where you think you know, but then I'm guessing that I'm going to find out I don't know what I think I know.
that's really interesting. I didn't know. It's just a name that comes up and about, and I didn't know. And then when I was finding sources and stuff, there's either everything. So like the Britannica article, I would say not a great article from Britannica this time.
Oh,
yeah, it was just too heavy.
disappointing.
Yeah. And then on the complete opposite side, I had National Geographic for kids. So I'm hoping we'll hit a sweet middle, like not too heavy, not too light, a nice sweet middle.
Nice.
So yeah, I've got Britannica, historyhit.com, historyanswers.co.uk, National Geographic Kids, and biography.com. As our sources today. So, Joan, this is France we're in today. So, just FYI, France in the 1400s. So, Joan was the daughter of a tenant farmer called Jacques, which is very French, and his wife Isabel, very French again.
Sick.
They were tenant farmers, which means they farmed land owned by someone else, basically. I didn't know that. They were born in a place in France called Domremy, which borders the duchies of Bar and Lorraine. So that is northeast France. So in today's terms, it borders Luxembourg and Germany.
Okay.
So northeast. That was on the 6th of January, 1412. They were poor, very deeply holy, pious peasant family. So not much money, but very, very devout. As Joan was growing up, she learned like domestic duties, so seamstress, looking after animals, cleaning, housework, all that kind of stuff. So nothing too out of the ordinary at this point. Just for a bit of context of what era Joan was born into. So France was in the middle of what was called the 100 Years' War. So it was ongoing, okay? It was a bit, never ending, it felt like. And they were on year 90 of this war.
Oh my days. That's too many.
So many
That's
days.
too many years. That's too many years. Like that's your whole lifetime.
Isn't it? And you don't know any different. That's the other thing. Like everyone who lives there now didn't know any different. Because of this, lots of villagers had already abandoned their homes because of the threats. But basically, they're in war with the English over land. Specifically, when Joan was about 3, France was very much on the back foot. They had just been defeated in the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, which meant the English gained even more power, even more territory as they were going on. So England's power over France at that time was so strong that even France's own heir to the throne, who was a guy called Charles, we'll talk about him a lot today, Charles of Valois, was disinherited and replaced on the throne by English warrior King Henry V. And it seemed for a time that that was it. It was always just going to be England won, and that was that. But then, crucially, there was a turn of fortune just a year later. So Henry V died, and then his son, Henry VI, was still an infant. So really, he couldn't do much. He was a baby. He had other things to do, right? So suddenly the France were like, oh, there's an opportunity here. We can maybe get Charles in. Okay, Charles has been there.
Still like lurking around.
Yeah, he's the rightful heir to the throne. He's lurking. Maybe this is his chance. So that is the context of what Joan's world was in, but obviously they're on the farm. So, like I said, they're very religious as a family, almost like meekly so, like avoiding conflict. Their foundational belief was Catholicism. Like I said, she was brought up during this time, so she'd seen kind of firsthand what that did. So she'd seen villages being burned down. It was very real to her. I'm going to weave throughout the story today some myths, and the first myth we're going to weave through is that Joan probably has this reputation nowadays for being really rebellious, like she was a really rebel kid, like a nightmare toddler. But the truth is she wasn't at all. Actually, like I said, their family was quite quiet, pious, dedicated, diligent, and they really didn't mess about that much as kids.
So not rocking the boat, just
Not
getting
rocking
on
the
with
boat.
her chores and trying to have a quiet life in the middle of all this turmoil.
Keep your head down and carry on, isn't it? The most rebellious act, according to this article, is that she used to visit local churches without permission, which again leads into this religious side.
This has the same energy as Theresa May saying she ran through a field of wheat. Like that's not rebellious. That's
just keeping kids, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. So that was probably the most naughty she was, actually. So she, in terms of this rebellion, kind of anarchist that we often associate with that picture, isn't necessarily true. Now, the thing that Joan of Arc is probably most known for, we'll come on to now. So at the age of 13, while standing in her father's garden, she suddenly experienced visions. So these are like almost, well, very religious things to happen. People talk about visions quite a lot in religion. And these were saints coming down and informing her of things. So these saints, so Saint Michael, Catherine, and Margaret, came to visit her and just informed her of lots of things. And then it was her job to pass this message on. Very classic religious move.
It's so heavy. They never just rock up and go, you're doing a good job, just carry on with the gardening. Like they always come and go, I'm sorry to tell you, you have to save the world. The world's been at war. Your entire world's been at war for 90 years. You're a 13-year-old girl. Could you just sort that out?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
And they word it in a way that this is your destiny. So like, off you go. Like you are compelled, to do this.
Great.
And credit to Joan, she took the courage. She had the mental and the physical courage and the common sense, and she wanted to go and do it. And she actually dug down and found all these attributes to make her decide that this is what she's going to do. So she was like, fine, this is my destiny. I'll go on and do it, which in itself is quite a big decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite overwhelming, some would say. So the vision is basically telling her that Charles should be on the throne. Okay, so Charles is not on the throne. The throne's in a bit of turmoil kind of vibe. She's decided that her mission is to get Charles on the throne.
Wild.
To do that, the first thing she has to do is persuade her local court to annul her arranged marriage. So she was set up for marriage and passing on and just living just like her many in the 90 of the 100 Years' War have, just going through the motions. And she managed to convince the court to do that. So that takes a lot of persuasion, first of all. And she told them that I'm doing this so Charles can get on the throne. And the court was like, oh, great, because that's what we want ultimately. Okay, that's fine. So she's sharing this vision.
It is a persuasive vision. However, if a young girl came forward and said, I need to go and deal with the the resumption of the throne by our deposed king. So I can't marry, Chip.
Sorry, Chip.
Sorry, Chip. I feel like that wasn't an easy sell. So she must have had some charisma to her to kind of get that across.
Or just
even though they wanted it.
Yeah.
Or they didn't think much of her would-be husband. That's another possibility. But for her to persuade them that she had the ability to do this and for them not to just go, oh, whatever, just go get married. Good on her.
100%. And it's a theme. So the next thing she does is she goes to Charles's court and has the same conversation again. Is basically like, I'm here to see Charles. I've had this vision. I'm going to get Charles on the throne. And you're right. Absolutely. They turned her away at this court. They were like, actually, you're 16 years old. I don't believe you. And fair, I would say. Absolutely fair. If someone came up to me today, like a 15-year-old boy came up to me today and was like, this is what I'm going to do, I'll be like, no.
I'm going to get you that promotion you deserve. You'd be like, who are you?
Go home.
Go to school. Leave me alone.
So I absolutely get that. She was turned away. I have put in the notes, do you think it would be the same if it was a 16-year-old boy doing this? I did wonder because... I don't know, 16-year-old boy is quite old in then times, isn't it? If you're in medieval times, that's quite a grand age, really. I just wondered
They still have the squeaky voice, which I think undermines any kind of political messaging. So it's tricky. It's a tricky one to call.
I was kind of thinking back to Eleanor of Aquitaine that we did, and actually there was that brood of men, wasn't there? There's that brood of boys, the Red Brood, and they were commanding and off doing stuff and getting castles and all that kind of thing when they were quite young. So I wondered if it was that, but it could also be that she's just very poor, because I imagine if you're at a royal court or in those circles and you come up as a tenant farmer, you're going to give off a slightly different different
smell
vibe,
for a start.
Absolutely.
Your clothing and everything. Yeah, it would be hard to be taken seriously, I think.
For sure. But anyway, regardless of why, she was turned away. But she didn't take no for an answer, so she went to the court again. This court is called Vaucouleurs. She went back again in January of 1429. And she was even firmer than before. So apparently she kept her quite quiet demeanour, but she was very firm, very forthright. And she had managed to persuade two things. First of all, that she's not a witch. When you hear visions and you're a woman, your mind goes to witchiness. And that she's not feeble, that actually, no, I can get Charles on the throne. Because she's not even convincing of them of their vision. She's convincing them of their vision and what she's going to do about it. So that's two quite big things, right? And they allowed her this time to go to the Dauphin at Chinon, which is where Charles was. So they let her pass this time. So she leaves the court that she's in. That's not where Charles is. She goes to find him on February the 13th. This is the first point where we know her to dress in men's clothing. So that's quite a big thing of her character. She's accompanied by 6 men. And she crosses enemy territory just to even see him. Which is mad. She travelled for 11 days, but she actually gets to the place where Charles is. So she's made it. Now she's got to convince Charles the same as what she's convinced the guards. By this point, she's 17 and she arrives unannounced at his court. And Joan is supposedly to have said something to Charles that only a messenger of God could have known. So that's the tactic that she uses to convince him.
I know you've got a freckle on your left bollock.
It could
what
be
is
that.
She doing? What is she doing?
It could be that. What else could it be? Well, this is the thing. We never know what she told him. It's not recorded, okay?
Well, I know my theory. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm sure it's that. I'm sure it must be.
Something meaningful and personal, because it obviously did the trick.
How did she do it? Because she's a saint. So that's what she uses to convince Charles. He's impressed, and he actually gives her a court of men, so really powerful, venerable men. And he's like, go on then, go and do what you say you're going to do. So he kind of gives her a chance. Wow. There's a little quote here about him making that decision.
Joan went at once to the castle of the Dauphin Charles, who was initially uncertain whether to receive her. His counselors gave him conflicting advice, but 2 days later, he granted her an audience. As a test, Charles hid himself among his courtiers, but Joan quickly detected him. Ah, okay, because there's no photography. She doesn't know what this guy looks like.
Yeah, and also, like, I'm sure hide and seek is the best way to decide.
How I make all of my work decisions. Can you find me?
That's the best way to decide who's going to get me on the throne, 100%. So he's like, how are you going to go do this? She's like, I'm going to go into battle. That's why he gives her the mem. And she's convinced him that she will get him crowned at Reims, which is where the crowning, it's like our Westminster, I guess. While she was there as well, I think another thing that really helped is that she managed to predict a military outcome before the news had reached him. So she said, look, I know there's this battle going on. I know the outcome. This is what it's going to happen. And she actually pitted the underdog in that battle, and it turned out to be true. So, you know, she's kind of proof is in the pudding kind of thing. That's 2-3 things that she's done to kind of get him on board. But it was a tussle, I would say.
Could have gone either way for her, but yeah, she obviously believed what she was saying.
Yeah, and Charles really did interrogate her as well. He got relatives and allies to interrogate her and to ask her specifically about the military side of stuff. And it took over 3 weeks for him to decide that, fine, let's give you a go, which I think speaks to the desperation of what France were facing.
And maybe he felt like he was running out of time because that little baby is getting older and older and older.
That's
and at some point, you know, quite soon would be an eligible.
So this whole period that I've just spoken about is about 5 years. So you're right, that baby is a child now. And we know that
they'll stick a crown on
anyone, won't they? Yeah, 100%.
He's able to walk. Get him in.
Get him now. So this is how they're going to make use of her. So he's decided that after all this interrogation, what are they going to do with Joan? And this is a quote that explains that a little bit.
Joan told the ecclesiasticals that it was not at Poitiers but at Orleans that she would give proof of her mission, and forthwith, on March 22nd, she dictated letters of defiance to the English. In their report, the churchmen suggested that in view of the desperate situation in Orleans, which had been under English siege for months, the Dauphin would be well advised to make use of her.
So she's in. She returns to Chinon and, like I said, is provided with his military household. She gets her brothers involved, Jean and Pierre. And another thing that she's done is predict a sword they were looking for is in this certain church, and they went off and found it and it was right. So she's proving her worth time and time again, which is really good.
That is such a fine line between being an accurate knower of unknowable things and being burned as a witch, because like in that time she's living in, it's dangerous to be a woman who has uncanny knowledge.
Yeah. And it sounds all the time that she's quite sure, right? Like quite, yeah, of course it's that.
Well, she did sneak around churches a lot as a kid, so maybe she had a little inside intel. Clever.
Maybe. So their goal now is to free Orleans from the English. That's the job. And she takes this role very seriously. She crops her hair. This is at the point where we get that Joan of Arc haircut. She dresses like a man. She wears a suit of white armor. This city, Orleans, has been under siege since October the 12th, 1428, and is almost totally surrounded by other English strongholds. So it's very much protected. When they go to battle, Joan is very much in battle. So it's not like she's just stood like pointing around, this is what I want to happen. She is there, she is fighting, she dons the armor, she has the sword. She's to the point where she does get injured. And, you know, she has to manage an army, big deal. Survive herself, big deal. She's had no experience, there's no training. Off you go. Yeah. And she is fully on in this war, which is absolutely fascinating.
Even just sticking on the armor. I read somewhere that a suit of armor on a woman's body typically would weigh about 90 kilos.
Sweaty work, isn't it?
That is
sweaty.
That's like a woman carrying her own body weight on top. Like if you're not trained for that, that is incredible. She must have been so strong.
So this is completely different for her. If you think that she was quite a pious farmer, quiet, meek, full on into battles, it's like she's comfortable in that setting. So there's a story of this Orleans battle that one evening she was resting and then suddenly she sprang up, apparently inspired, and something had spoken to her, and she was like, we must go and attack now. Like, it's now that is the time that it's quiet, and it's like spring an attack on someone. And it pulled off. It was quite radical and quite wild and quite it sounds quite stressful. I wouldn't want to be in her army. I'd like a plan. But it was working, right? And this leads into another myth, which is that women didn't lead armies. It wasn't that unusual for a woman to be in the armies fighting at this time, especially aristocratic women, where it's like a family line and things like that. It's quite common. Probably the thing that did go against the grain more was actually she was poor. So that was the thing that people were questioning more than her gender at the time, which is very interesting.
That is very interesting.
I've said it once, I said it again. Women have always been in war. People think that it's like G.I. Joe, but it's not. It's always been different. I guess the other thing is how she got her army on board. So if you've got a woman, which although wasn't unusual, but misogyny is still a thing, but also a poor woman, how do you get behind her? I guess it's important when you a team and stuff like that. And I think the way she got round was things like the sword and predicting these things and proof in the pudding, and she was in it and succeeding. So she actually won this Battle of Orleans in just 9 days. And if you think about Eleanor of Aquitaine, how long their fights went on for, weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, actually 9 days is pretty quick.
It's blink of an eye, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, she did get wounded. But she rested up, carried on, just like any other soldier would. I just found it interesting that she's managed to get herself in this position and actually do what she said she was going to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a number of opportunities and correct steps that have all kind of aligned to put her where she is.
Yeah, for sure. There's a quote that kind of talks about how she actually leads her army.
It was thanks in part to her example that the French commanders maintained the attack until the English capitulated. Next day, the English were seen retreating, but because it was Sunday, Joan refused to allow any pursuit.
So strategic, but also that religious aspect, that Sunday is your rest day, your day of God, it's still important to her. Her values haven't moved. Mm-hmm. They're steadfast, which is very interesting. So some would say that Orleans was a miraculous result, and some would say it's actually down to Joan's divine gifts that she was able to do this, like these visions that she's having where she would just spring up and off we go. After she's won St. Orleans, she goes to find Charles, and she really wants him to get to Reims and get on the throne. Basically, that's the whole point. That was the thing that vision when she was 13 that she needed to happen. That was her destiny. But Charles kind of meanders. He's like, well, I don't think we're in a strong enough position yet. I think we need to get more towns.
Okay.
So off they go, and after town, Joan is in battle and liberating these towns from the English. Like, go and go and go. She's very much in it. She was quite paramount to a lot of those conquers because of her gifts, basically. So, for example, she was given a constable under her, like in her army, who was under suspicion at the French court. But before accepting him, she kind of interrogated him herself a little bit, and she made him swear fidelity to their side, so to the French, and he committed to her. She believed him, and then that actually led to the surrender of yet another castle because of his insider knowledge. So she managed to get him on board, and but again, that's persuasive, isn't it? And that's diplomatic, and that's leadership skills. It's mad.
Absolutely.
Another battle happens. They come face to face at Patay on June the 18th, 1429, and Joan promised success to the French, so she predicted this again, saying Charles would win a greater victory that day than any he had won so far. She was right. The victory was again completely English army rerouted, and they kind of are getting this reputation now because they're doing so well. Because so particularly Joan, but also the French are really building up momentum here, which is very, very interesting. So they've done what Charles wanted. They've gone around to all these little towns, got castles, got Patay. And she asked Charles again, like, we need to get you to go and become king. Like, come on. Like, what is wrong with you? And this sounds so frustrating. I'd be really annoyed because, again, he says no. He relents. It's kind of meandering about from what I could tell from the I'm not really sure what his goal is here. Like, maybe he's scared. I don't know.
Yes,
I was like, dude.
I'm trying to imagine that as well. Like, is he thinking, I need more strongholds before I dare to take the throne? Otherwise, they'll just immediately kick me out and kill me.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
But
just
this is the
having a
only
lovely
reason
time.
Joan has rocked up. So the only reason you're succeeding is because of Joan, and the only reason
And
she
she's
is
like,
to get you on the throne.
let's get this done. And he's
Yeah.
going, maybe tomorrow. Let's have another battle.
Oh,
I think he likes
God.
it.
I'd be so annoyed. I'd be absolutely losing my mind. So this leads into like another myth because they're battling each other, and they've got their own internal argument going on. She's not making any headway there, really. So this is the third time now of asking him, like, we need to get you coronated. There is a myth that she wasn't intelligent, basically. There was like this myth that she's illiterate, that she can't, but she does write letters. As we've seen in the quotes that you've read out, she is very diplomatic. She can persuade people. And there's been a few examples throughout where she kind of challenges people in certain roles and certain statures and manages to get them to do what she has to do, which means that she's got good mental reasoning. She's very intelligent. She can convince people to do what she needs to do, and she can strategically win a fight. So it's kind of a bit harsh, I think, that myth of her, really.
Do you think that the class thing plays in here as well? Because even, today someone might go for a job interview, and if they have a certain working class accent, they might be less likely to get the role. And maybe it's the same there. They're hearing this peasant woman speak and thinking,
Yeah, absolutely great pickup. I imagine an accent is a big thing of that, isn't it? And what accent you've got, just like you said. So, like AI scans loads of CVs nowadays. And
great.
And I read that, because obviously there's this bias, isn't there, in AI? So if that company has hired someone from a particular university, they will favor that university when scanning other CVs.
Oh, I see.
Isn't that mad? So you could have the same degree from a slightly different university, but because that company hasn't hired anyone from there before, they won't touch them, because that's how AI is selecting.
Right. So the computers are just as broken as us.
Just as broken as it was in 1412 or whatever.
Yeah, we have not moved on since the 1400s.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So sad. So she was intelligent, and she did actually manage to convince Charles to go and have a coronation and actually be crowned king. The coronation itself took place on July the 17th, 1429, and she was present at that coronation, and she wasn't far from the altar. She was very much trusted by Charles at this point.
Too right.
100%. She's earned her crust, doesn't she? There is this image that is seen in some paintings of her kneeling before Charles and calling him king for the first time. That same day, she wrote to the Duke of Burgundy, urging him to make peace with the king. So they were on the other side, withdraw his garrisons from the royal fortresses. She's trying to cement this thing. She's trying to get it bish bash bosh, trying to end that war. Because again, destiny, such a strong word. That's what she's set out to do. So she's doing whatever she can.
And what age is she now? I've lost track of her birth date as compared to now, but
I want to say
25?
18.
Oh my God.
18.
All right, life's work complete, 18 years old. What do we do now?
17, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
So she is very intelligent. She writes letters. She's involved in these political things. She often writes letters to small towns, reassuring them of the support is coming. We're on it. We're winning. To people like the Duke of Burgundy, trying to get in there, and it's working. And there's a quote here that kind of explains how much it's working.
Everywhere acclaimed, Joan was now, according to a 15th century chronicler, the idol of the French. She herself felt that the purpose of her mission had been achieved.
Yeah, she's winning and people like it. People like it. People like her. Of course you would. You've got this amazing predictor on your side who can, I don't know if it's self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever, but it's working, whatever she's doing.
Turning the tide on a literal generation's worth of war and oppression. And this girl has come out of nowhere and just gone, nope, we're done with that now. We're going to get our guy back in.
Bish,
and
bash,
she
bosh.
made it happen.
Yeah, good for her. Absolutely. So the French are loving her. What do you think the English are feeling?
Not so great, I'm guessing.
For sure.
All the Henrys are going to be a bit salty about this turn of events, even baby Henry.
Baby Henry, the English in general, they've jumped to the conclusion that she must be the devil.
Oh,
That's
the only explanation.
For sure, for sure. So there's a brief truce between France and England in 1430. Joan was ordered to defend the town of Compiègne, I'm going to butcher that, in northern France, which was under siege by the English. But on the 23rd of May, Joan's party was ambushed and she was shot from her horse by an archer. So she gets captured pretty soon after she set out to achieve what she wanted to achieve.
God.
And who captures her? The English. They throw her in a tower and lock her, throw away the key. She tries to escape, much like Eleanor of Aquitaine did. Of course, they did.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was one occasion where she jumped 70 feet from her prison tower. She was absolutely desperate, to escape. And other people tried to come and rescue her because she is loved by the French. It was a big deal. They tried to bribe people to offer a way in. They actually offered 10,000 francs for her. They were happy to buy her back. They were anything to get her out of there. And Charles, who is now christened, who is now coronated, so Charles VII, he vows exact vengeance on the troops that stole her. But nothing works. Joan cannot escape her captors. And I think some of that is because like we just said earlier, she's an absolute idol in France, so she's absolutely number one enemy for English.
Yeah,
right?
So dangerous to them. Yeah,
100%. So in 1431, Joan is put on trial for a host of her crimes. There was 70 crimes in total. They'd managed to draw up this list. The list of charges was so long that it took 2 days to read out all 70, because there's just so many.
God.
And there was a whole host of things in there. There was devil worship, there was blasphemy, there was attempt at suicide, there was cross-dressing because they didn't like the fact that she wore trousers, heresy. There's lots of stuff going on in there. It's not looking good, basically. They've got all these things against her.
And they're hitting her where it hurts as well, because she is a devout person, and they're going, you're a devil worshipper, you're a heretic. And
100%.
She believed herself to be on the side of God, so that would have been really offensive, I'm sure.
And she asks to go to mass because she is devout, and that's so important, isn't it? Especially in times of turmoil. She was denied that, so those rights aren't being met. And she's questioned relentlessly. They essentially want her to confess. They essentially want her to admit. But it's really interesting. She is very calm throughout all the questioning and very confident, and she sticks to her story constantly. And one of the lines that she tends to repeat and again is written there.
Everything I have done at the instruction of my voices.
Yes. Probably not helping the whole devil thing, to be honest. If you're talking about branding and PR.
Could go either way. Yep.
But this does lead us on into another myth about Joan. So one of the myths is that she lied about these voices within her head. It's not thought to be true because she doesn't waver from her story at whatever. She never changes tack, never changes story. She is constantly pressured and constantly interrogated for weeks and weeks at a time. And also she experienced her first vision when she wasn't even anything to do with this. So it's not like it was an add-on to any personality. This is just something that she was always had, and from the age of 12. So whether it's hallucinations, what we would call it today, or whether it is the divine, whatever, it's very much, she did not lie about it for whatever reasoning you want to give that. She never deviated from the voices that were in her head. She was ordered to swear to tell the truth and did so. But the one thing she wouldn't do is reveal the things that she had said to Charles. So about his
Right.
mole or whatever that may be. That was one thing she never said that she did, but that's to protect her king, isn't it? Basically?
Right. Yeah, and maybe it was something private to him, something personal.
It was relentless, this questioning. She was never alone. She was chained to wooden blocks. She was put in irons. She was interrogated over 12 times. And it's not proper interrogation. It's seedy stuff. And then the trial begins. So the trial is very much based on religion, which is really interesting because the war isn't about religion. The war is about France versus England, right? But the trial is very much about religion. It took me a little while to get my head around this, and then I had to stick it into ChatGPT just to make sure I'd fully understood it. But this is what I've kind of come to the conclusions of. So the judges were asking Joan if she would obey the church's authority. In the medieval Catholic Church, if you refused to submit to the church rulings, you were considered a heretic, and that's punishable by death. So they'll kill you for that. The court was rigged against her. So if she said, yes, I'll obey the church, she would have to obey whatever the court decided. And they were planning to find her guilty and hang her. But if she said no, then she's rebelling against the church, which proved that she was a heretic and would be punishable by death. So whatever it's like basically the witch trials, isn't it?
Right.
If you say no, they don't believe you. And if you say yes, you're a witch, will drown you.
So there's no winning there. And the church has been weaponized to punish a political enemy, a military enemy. How do you get out of that?
They had her in this trap, and her way of dealing with it was to avoid the question as much as possible. So first she flattered them by saying, but you're the church, you can't make any mistakes, you're amazing. And then she basically drew a line in the sand and said, I respect the church, but my ultimate boss, my ultimate person I speak to is God and the saints who speak to me. I'm going to answer to them. I'm not going to answer to you. So that was another way she got around it. And because she was really, again, smart and not committing to either yes or no, the 70 charges were actually reduced to 12.
Okay.
So it did work because she was using all these different tactics to avoid the trap.
Picking them off one at a time.
This took so long though. In the meantime, she fell sick and she was visited by 2 doctors. I imagine those doctors weren't independent. I imagine there's not an independent commission there for them. And she did receive a lot of visits whilst in the cell, whilst poorly, from different people trying to encourage her to obey to the church, submit to the church so they could finish the trial. All the time she was deteriorating and probably dying, they think. If you're not having the treatment, it's quite a one-way train that you're on. All the while, she's begging to be allowed to go to confession herself and receive Holy Communion. They continue to badger her, and she only gives the same responses that she has before, and she is absolutely steadfast in what her line is. So one thing that she repeated on and on is there.
I am relying on our Lord. I hold to what I have already said. Oh, I said what I said.
Yeah.
Talk to God.
Yep. Deal. She's not relenting, which again is such a strong characteristic.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sick and you're in a drafty cold tower and you're chained
people
to a wooden
watching
block
you all the time.
Yeah, and just day after day after day, you'd be like, fine. Yeah. Fine, yes, I'm a heretic, whatever.
Also, where's Charles in all this? I couldn't. I'm sure there's something out there, but I couldn't find it. He's whatever. Anyway,
that's a really good question.
Thank you. They became more and more insistent, commit to the church, and they threatened her with torture. She answered to that if you torture me, I'm not going to reply any differently if I'm dead. It's this or nothing. And so the interrogators were like, fair, we won't torture you then, we'll back off. So on the 24th of May, she was eventually taken to the scaffold and told she would immediately die unless she denied claims of divine guidance and gave up wearing men's attire. So we're like, this is your last chance. At that point, she did sign a warrant. Yet just 4 days later, she recanted on that warrant and began wearing men's clothing again. Which is very interesting. There's a number of reasons why people think this happened. First is that she liked it. She liked men's clothing. She was more comfortable in men's clothing. The second one is, so she tied her trousers against herself with ropes. It didn't have belts back then, so it was a bit of rope. And that actually prevented the guards from raping her because of the type of knot that she used. And then some people thought that the guards probably made her do it. So they hated her so much. They took the women's clothing off her and gave her the men. So it was either that or nothing, basically.
Right.
So whether it was her choice or whether it was for different reasons, it was enough to brand her a witch. It was enough for her to go back on her warrant, and her sentence to death was finalised. There's one final myth that I just want to share with us today, and that is the Catholic Church wanted her death. And the actual truth is, like I said before, this isn't about religion, it's about England versus France. There was no evidence of paganism, and there was no evidence that she was Protestant. It's often presented as some kind of epic religious quest, this trial, and actually it wasn't to do with that, essentially. They went after her because she was the French's favourite. She was a huge win for the English if they captured her, and it was more to do with the war, but the trial was so precluded with religion that is what has stuck in people's minds. She has been devout throughout her childhood all the way through.
I think it's a case of the state using the mechanism it can, and in that time the most powerful accusation you could make was you're a heretic, you're against God. It kind of in a weird way reminds me of like stop and search, or the other things that police will do. They're not actually interested in whether you have a tiny bit of marijuana in your pocket, but that is the avenue that they can use to kind of like hook in and then get at what they're actually after, which is to get you for whatever they're actually interested in. So, yeah.
100%. So the executioner seized her, led her to the stake, and lit the prior. A Dominican consoled Joan. She asked him to hold a crucifix really high and shout out all the assurances of salvation as loudly as he could above the roaring flames and above the crowd, so that while she was dying, she had that to hold on to, which is absolutely horrific. And she did die a faithful Christian at just 19 years old.
Oh my God, so young.
It's mad, isn't it? The war continued for another 22 years. So she was like a blip actually in this massive war. And it's really interesting about what happens after. So 3 things happen after. The first thing is that Charles VII finally finds his backbone. And after multiple investigations, from both him, the church, and the Pope, they officially revoked and annulled Joan's guilty sentence, clearing her name 25 years after her death.
Oh.
Which is nice, but also for fuck's sake.
Yeah, where were you when they were putting me through the trial? But okay.
Pope Benedict XV officially declared Joan a saint, establishing her feast day, which is every year on May the 30th. That happened in 1920, so many, many, many years later. Also in 1920, the French Parliament created a yearly national festival in her honour. And yes, so every year there is a Joan's Day, which is lovely. So she was very much, it all worked out in the end. But very, very late.
Yes. I wonder if she would have wanted it any different, though. She seems so determined by her mission, her destiny. Obviously, a pardon would have been nice in her lifetime, but...
Well, this is why you don't kill people, isn't it, I guess, in case something is wrong. She would have been alive 25 years if she was only 19.
Absolutely.
Like, she would have been alive 25 years later, so...
And that whole war might have been that much shorter, and who knows what lives would have been saved. So,
So that is the story of heroine, maverick, and pious Joan of Arc.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was very out of my comfort zone, very different. And I think I'm pleased I learned about it, I guess, a little bit. And like I said, it's probably like a high school version. There's so much that I kind of glistened over, but also
There's
a little bit more than the Geographic Kids version. So.
There's a lot of threads, isn't there? Because there's the kind of the religious thing, and then there's the spiritualism thing, and then there's the military thing and the historical piece. And so you've brought together all those different
I hope so. I've tried
and,
at least.
It's certainly filled in a lot of the blanks that I had in my head. I know the name, I know the kind of the loose reputation, and in a weird way it reminds me of the pod you did about Catherine the Great, because you have this idea, this little snapshot, this Polaroid in your head of who this person is, and there's so much more. Thank you very much, Vicky.
Thank you. I hope it was good, and thank you for listening. We'll catch you later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.